So I think we're ready to move on to team two. And team two is team Mazingira Bora. They're from Kenya, Nairobi, and we have Maya on the line who is going to be speaking. Maya, you're good to go.
Well, good afternoon and good morning to everyone. My name is Maya Shah and I'm representing Team Mazingira Bora to bring you our solution to food insecurity. So first, I'd like to introduce you to Mutier. Mutier is the uncle of my teammate Ruben, but more importantly, he's one of the 800,000 smallholder farmers in our country, Kenya. Smallholder farmers carry out vital agricultural work to feed their families and bring in an income. They're the lifeline for food in our country, producing 63% of the food, and their work is at risk. Most of his life, Mutier has relied on his shamba to take care of his household, farming with knowledge passed down through generations. Recently, unreliable rainfall, soil degradation, and increased pests, all due to climate change, have greatly reduced his yields. Moreover, he sells his produce to middlemen who offer him low prices. This, paired with low yields, reduces his income significantly. With incomes reduced, Mutier's children and his friends no longer see farming as a viable job, and they have moved to the cities, leaving a gap in the food supply chain. The core challenge that Mutier and other smallholder farmers face is information. Amongst other things, they lack access to the latest information on permaculture techniques, on suggestions for how to operate within new climate boundaries, on options they have for eliminating the middleman and selling directly to the market. This lack of information shackles their farm's growth. Can you imagine, ladies and gentlemen, if Mutier had a regular supply of the latest information from around the world to enhance his traditional farming practices, if he was able to ask questions on what he can do to increase his yields and get instant replies, what would his farm look like? Well, that is our solution. We are Team Mazingira Bora. We're a team of students from Kenya, and we all know someone, an aunt, an uncle, and even a grandmother who's a smallholder farmer. Combining our skills in data management, international relations, with our passion for environment and agriculture, we aim to create a simple solution that can have a huge impact. So, what is our solution? Introducing Evergreen. This is a weekly 45-minute radio program to share the best farming practices, combined with a USSD system for more information. Each week, we will research and speak to an expert from around the world or a local farmer to share their advanced knowledge of farming practices. We'll be covering a range of topics from cultivation to production to negotiation, all to help farmers address the many challenges they face. This information will then be put into a constructive list of actions and broadcast in Swahili to reach the widest target audience possible. The second half of our solution is a USSD system, unstructured supplementary service data. This is a real-time system that allows farmers to dial a code and get access to a menu. They can choose to speak directly to us or to get access to a menu and pick a topic they want more information on, receiving an SMS, or they can send in a question and we can send back a reply. The reason we chose a USSD system and not a website or an app is because in our country, while 80% of people own a mobile phone, only 30% have a smartphone. And we believe the USSD system will also work well because most farmers have at least primary level of education. But how does our solution overcome a lot of challenges that other solutions in the market face? Well, as you can see from the table, we tick off most of those boxes. First, we're going to be using a medium that's accessible to the majority. Research shows almost 70% of our target audience already owns a radio, and they listen to it quite frequently, so it's a low barrier entry. Second, we'll be giving testimonials and advice from experts. Third, we don't really need high literacy levels to use our solution because it's spoken Swahili. Fourth, we have a feedback system through the USSD as well as call-ins at the end of the radio program. Fifth, we have our program will be mainly in Swahili, which is spoken across the country. And lastly, We'll be giving advice and information on the upcoming weather at the end of each broadcast, so farmers can adapt their process accordingly. We believe that the impact of our solution will be transformational. On a micro level, this is what it can do for farmers like Mutiye. One, they can learn how climate change affects them and how they can respond to alleviate its impacts. They can combine their traditional knowledge of their land and farms with new knowledge to improve how they farm. For example, moving away from rain-fed systems to irrigation. They can increase their yields and in turn their income, giving them greater negotiating power with middlemen. Or they could just entirely get rid of the middlemen, form groups or SACCOs and sell directly to the market. They may even hire their own community members. All of this can happen if they have access to information that allows them to make choices. What about on a macro level? On a macro level, it means there are more people who see a future in farming and can choose to farm instead of going to city centers. It means increased overall agricultural production in our country, reducing our dependency on imports for food. It means better quality of food for people in the country and a reliable supply, thus low-cost food. And lastly, increased carbon sinks and reduce global warming as farmers can change the way they farm and till, increasing carbon sequestration through regenerative techniques. This is our plan to implement. Keeping in mind that our program happens in 2-month cycles with 6 weeks of airing the program and then 2 weeks of prep. For the radio station, for the radio program, this is what would be the steps for implementing it locally. First, we need to research and set out a topic list for the 6-week cycle, request and carry out interviews, book air slots and recording studios, edit our recordings, air live or pre-recorded sessions, and use the listener feedback we get to generate a list of topics for the next 6 weeks. It happens in cycles, but before we do that, we would need to create a team to deal primarily with the radio program and another to deal with the USSD system, and also get sponsors for our solution. For our USSD system, we would mainly be contacting a third party called Safaricom. They're one of the biggest telecommunications company in our country, and they do USSD systems. We basically have to buy the license from the Communications Commission in our country, create the system to the third party and launch it. As you can see, these are the estimated costs of our solution. Approximately 1 million Kenya shillings or around 9,000 US dollars. Keeping in mind, this is just what we've got from our research. The prices can go down. We look to financing our solution through sponsors, as well as through sponsors, adverts on the radio program, donations, and government grants, as the government is really trying to boost smallholder agriculture. We also hope that the USSD system could be sponsored by Safaricom under one of their community outreach programs. And if we have better negotiations with the radio station, we can significantly reduce the airing slot cost. We believe that our solution is highly scalable. With an estimated 570 million smallholder farmers worldwide, we see a huge market opportunity for governments and companies to license this model and support their critical farmers. Our licensing and scalability can be done in 3 ways. First, we can license the program name Evergreen to other radio stations and interested parties, similar to how TED Talks has done. 2, we can license and distribute pre-recorded material to be translated into language of choice wherever. And lastly, we would share the USSD system model so it can be paired with the program. We say Kenyans love their land. However, climate change has made our land less profitable, driving people away from the farms and into the cities. But we believe that with the right information, people can grow better produce and earn more from it, ultimately securing a prosperous and long-term future for the world's farmers. Evergreen, a simple, low-barrier entry solution that can change the lives of many smallholder farmers across the globe and in Kenya. Thank you so much for listening to us. That was Team Mazingira Bora.
Thank you, Maya. We've already got some of the judges lined up with questions. So we've got Judge Bill Morris. And so his question to you is, how will you know that it is delivering results? How are you going to measure that how are you going to measure the outcome of your solution?
Well, the first thing would be obviously through the feedback system, depending on the numbers we get from people who call in and ask questions and use the USSD system. And also the second part, we could always go out into the field and carry out surveys to see how much listener retention we have.
Okay. And then Judge Mark asked about why the 2-month cycle.
We felt that 2-month cycles would be best for us so it would give us enough time to research and record our programs and to air it. And also 2 months is short enough that we can adapt to any changes that are happening in the country and adapt our program accordingly. So if there was a swarm of locusts that have been predicted, we can adjust our content specifically for that. If it's longer than that, we may find that it's hard to adjust the content.
Okay. Judge Patricia asked about languages. You spoke about it being in Swahili, but what about communities who don't speak Swahili? Are there any other options for other languages?
Okay, so in our country, like there are radio programs already for people who don't speak in Swahili, but that's where we noticed the gap. They're mainly for them, and a majority of people do speak Swahili, but they don't have the information. So our program is targeted specifically towards them.
Okay. And so we've got one more question from Judge Gautam, and his question was, what type of data analytics are you planning? What data will you collect and how will you use it?
Sorry, data analytics in terms of what we'll present on the radio?
No, so to that potentially, but I assume also just in terms of the outcomes.
Right. So for the program, we'll be doing research just in general to see what topics can be used and covered. In specific, under the three topics that 3 areas that we talked about: the production, negotiation, and consumption. So under those 3 topics, what we could inform, and then also in terms of data for us to use from our backend would be looking at collecting data for who listens to the program, as well as how effective it's been. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Apologies, judges. I know you had a number of questions, but we're up on our 3 minutes and need to keep moving with the program. But Maya, thank you to your team. That was an excellent presentation.